all different kinds of people from different backgrounds, different shapes, different sizes, and really like being proud of their bodies. And that's so relatable to so many children, but also so many women, because we all have different physiques and our physique changes as we go through life as well. You know, having children and stuff, that changes you, but doesn't mean that you can't fit in. And I always say to people and say, oh, I don't like sport. I'm like, you just not found the right thing. We're not where we need to be. So let's not all wave our hands in the air and say it's fabulous, because there's a hell of a lot of work to do. I think the question is, what do I want? And then, am I in the right place? They would be the two questions that I would look to answer. I just feel like I will get there. For me, it's about self-belief, and it's about ambition and confidence. And that's not arrogance. It's just something quietly that sits. If people say I can't do it, it just spurs me on even more. There's something quite fun in proving people wrong, I think. And I can, I will, watch me. Hi Yvonne, welcome to the third episode of Unstoppable Women. I'm the host, Julie Tague, and today I'm sat down with you, Yvonne Harrison, CEO of Women in Football, and I'm so delighted to have you here. I think in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about sports and what it's like to juggle a family and a career while having all your own motivations and drive as well. And I'm so excited to be doing this third episode with you. What I'm finding as I go is some of these conversations are just so beautiful. They're about times when women have faced adversity or have had to strive through in life and how they did that in a way that has made them unstoppable, and sharing some of those lessons that they found along the way. So to get us started, why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners? Who is Yvonne Harrison?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here and part of the unstoppable journey. So I am a mom, first and foremost. I've got 3 amazing children, and they're unbelievable and challenging all at the same time, let's say. But no, they're really great kids. I have a dog called Vader. I'm married to Lee, and I have a career that I'm really proud of so far. Spanned sport for 20 plus years, and I'm currently the CEO of Women in Football and the chair of a charity called Foundation 92, which is the official charity of Salford City Football Club.
Fantastic. So take us back. So sports is something that is huge to you. And it's one of the reasons I was really keen on talking to you. I mentioned I'm running my first marathon this year. It's a huge thing for me. But running for me, even though a solo sport, has been such a key part of my life and journey, and has given me so much around how I've been able to move through some difficult times. It's given me back so much. So I can see how valuable sport and exercise is in society. Take me back. Tell me a little bit about your journey with sports and where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, like you now, it's my happy place actually. And a lot of what I do, well, everything that I do is actually on my own. I don't play a team sport anymore. It doesn't really fit in very well with my life and how busy it is. But it's a place where it's genuinely time for me. I don't take calls. I'm not answering messages. That's just my time. Probably about 6 months ago, I really properly got back into. I've been very sporadic with it. It's always something that I do, at least once a week. But actually, 3 or 4 times a week is probably something that I need, because I just feel like I work in quite a high pressure environment and my home life is very busy and it can be sometimes quite stressful. And so for me, that just brings me back down and makes me feel like I've had a release. And I think where it all started, I guess at school, like I just loved playing sport. I loved everything about it. And, I was good at it as a kid, and I probably loved that too, the praise and that sort of accolade. And it's just sort of stuck with me through my life. And I've never been somebody who's played at an elite level. Very early doors, I was, in for county trials at netball and was basically told I'm too short. I'm 5'5". I'm taller than the average woman in England. But anyway, actually back in the day, as a 12-year-old or whatever, I was an excellent little shooter, and the person that they picked was so tall but was shot terribly all day. And I just, that was a really harsh lesson in life, but an important one around, what, life isn't fair. They can help her learn to shoot. They can't make me grow. So there are some things that are out of our control, right? And actually, looking back on that, you think, okay, but we move on. It didn't put me off. I've always played sport. It's been a big part of my life. And netball, I continue to play. It's been a place where I found some of my best friends. where I've had some of my best laughs. We've also as teams shared, some really hard times as well. And so whilst I don't play anymore, I'm still connected to Domino's Netball Club. I still feel proud. I'd still say that with my club. And I helped set up a junior club many years ago. And that was my first kind of big step into volunteering, I guess. And for me, that love of playing sport made me want to work in it. And so that's the educational path that I took. I went to college and did like a leisure and tourism GMBQ back in the day, and then I went to uni at Salford and did a leisure management degree, and I've subsequently done a community sports development master's, and I did a master's in sports directorship a couple of years ago. So my educational path has definitely been that, and my career has kind of followed that path as well. And I think the volunteering that I did in sport was very beneficial for the club that I was involved with, but it was also incredibly beneficial to me as a young person, developing some really great and transferable skills that I could add to like work experience that helped me land that first job.
Wow. I mean, firstly, it sounds like we've both had quite scarring experiences of netball, because I was always put in goal defence as someone that's 5'10", nearly 5'11", and I hated it.
Oh, we just played against each other because I was always goal attack.
I
and I was
hated
short,
it.
so you did my ball.
I didn't like it, and I hated the fact that because of my height, I was put in goal defence or goalkeeper. I can't remember which one, and I was kind of pinned to one end of the court. But I should have learned quicker that it's a team sport. Just because you're at one end doesn't mean you're not part of the team.
Yeah.
The second thing you were saying about some of those connections that you have made through sport, I've found some of my most beautiful memories I've got in my life have been through running, and running with people. Running with a friend this year who was in remission from breast cancer and ran the London Marathon. I trained with her, and she actually started doing routes around my new home. I moved to Surrey a couple of years ago. Didn't know it at all, and through those runs, very long runs, 2-3 hour runs, we'd go all around Epsom Downs, and she showed me the area while we'd talk. So those connections that you grow through sports, I can completely agree with you. They give you access to connections and relationships and experiences and memories in ways that I never would have had otherwise. The other bit that's really interesting in what you're saying is how it opens doors into non-paid activities and experiences that benefit, show you as a rounded person as well, which I think is so important, especially for young people nowadays who are coming into this world of work. You've got 3 teenage children. How have you seen sports change and their access to sport from when you were younger?
Great question. I mean, there's been a lot of investment into sport, not enough. That might add. When you think about the mental health benefits of participating in sport and physical activity, I mean, I live in Greater Manchester. It's a trailblazing city region. We have a devolved authority. We had the first devolved health authority here, and it was something that I was very proud of working alongside when I was the CEO of Greater Sport, which is a charity which is all about changing people's lives through sport and physical activity. And I was there for, 14 years. I started as a volunteer, actually, while I was at uni, did a 6-week placement, and I just asked them, can I stay? I'll do anything. Like, just can I stay involved? Like, I really want to work in sport after I finish my degree. I don't want to, go into recruitment or whatever, which is what a lot of people seem to do. And that's fine. It's a great career, but it wasn't for me. And they were like, yeah, you come in every week. And I did. And I remember mates at uni be like, what are you doing that for? You're not even getting paid. And I was like, these guys are connected to everybody. Like, if I want a job in sport, like, this is going to be the way that I'm going to do it. And sure enough, I did. I applied for a role with them part-time. I also got offered a job the same week with the Commonwealth Games that was coming to Manchester. And so I was like, that had been my thing, really, wanting to do that. But actually, that 14-year career with Greater Sport, from, starting as a volunteer and then spending 4 years as the CEO before I moved on, it was very much about how do we make sure that sport is more accessible to people, not only in terms of, infrastructure and buildings and transport links and all of that, but actually accessible to people as in, it's for me. Manchester as a city has world-class venues, but did local residents in Manchester feel that the Velodrome, the National Cycling Centre, was for them? It took a lot of work for the local authority to get people into that building to see that it is theirs, as well as it is, the elite riders that we use in those facilities. So I think there've been some brilliant campaigns, supported by government funding, like things like This Girl Can and other things that really kind of bust some of the myths that I don't play a lot of netball nowadays because I don't really have the capacity to play a team sport well. I haven't got the time to do training consistently and play matches. And also, my nails are probably a bit long now and I don't want to cut them. I don't want to cut them to playing league netball. I don't want to. So, I might play occasionally in like some friendly random game where it doesn't matter, but I just don't want to, and that's the end of that. But I do train a lot at the gym. I'll do other things, and there's been so many ways to try and make people feel like, you can go for a run and you don't have to be, a lean 6-foot runner. Any size, any shape, you can do that. And I think that's really important. And it's something, I'll be passionate about till the day that I die. We are all better off if we move more. That's a fact. We reduce demand on public services. We feel better in ourselves, and we're more likely to be in work and well. And our mental state is going to be better. So for me, that's obviously been a huge chunk of my career. And I learned, so much in that role, like growing up through a business and then becoming the ultimate leader, I guess, of that business, and how you transition into that new identity, but also the influence that you can have as a leader on a whole range of people who don't have to listen to you, who don't have to care about what you say, but actually you can galvanize them in such a way that you create a world first in, as an example, greater sport, working with the combined authority, the Health and Social Care Partnership, the Mayor Andy Burnham, who came in and created the first MOU between Sport England nationally and a place, which was Greater Manchester. That had never been done before. The skills that you learn through playing sport, the ability to influence, to win, to lose, to communicate, to be humble, to lead, to sit back, like all of those things kind of came together, I think, in that role, and it's something that I grew in a lot. But yeah, in terms of, there's much more access for, back to the question, my kids to get involved in things. Actually, they're not hugely into sport. My youngest he's obsessed with everything, and has recently taken up angling. He absolutely loves it. And do you know what's really interesting? He plays football, he plays basketball, he plays everything. But what he says to me about fishing in particular is, I like the peace of it, Mum. There's something very calming for him to go down to the river or the fishing pond or wherever with his rod, possibly one of his mates, and just be in nature for the day and catch these whopping fish. Like and so
That's
it's
beautiful.
about everything for everyone.
That's one of the reasons I love running, is running in nature, in woods, in forest. I don't do it for time. It's the calming ability that it has, and the soothingness that it can have. One of the things I think is really interesting in what you're saying is that reframe about and questioning, well, that's not for me, or that's not relevant to me, to seeing and that it is, that I can do that, I can partake in that sport. And I can almost hear from what you're saying from someone who's on the other side, who's trying to break down those boundaries. For people, that can be quite hard. One of my my best friend, her young daughter is 11, and she's just found rugby, like women's rugby, and she's started doing that on a Sunday. And none of us, we're not rugby people, never done rugby. Nails, I don't do rough and tumble. We've got hair done and makeup and stuff. Like, I don't do contact stuff. And it's unbelievable seeing the impact and the confidence that this young girl is having, finding her place where she's really good. She can knock people down, right? Her physique is a strength in this environment. And it's amazing seeing that reframe of, potentially, I'm not a sporty person, to, I found a sport that I belong to and I'm really good at, and this makes sense to me. So that reframe about sometimes breaking down the barriers in someone's own mind from not seeing themselves in that space, to being able to step in and say, actually, this is for me, has been something. I feel like that's particularly relevant for women, where there's a lot of traditionally male-dominated sports or areas that, women just didn't see themselves before. How have you seen that change over your career?
Yeah, massively so. And I love the fact that she's taken up rugby, and, I'm sure that the Roses might have had something to do with that in terms of winning the World Cup and seeing that. And I think what's really interesting for me, the platform that our female athletes have now, and, have worked so hard to get, they're using it in such a positive way. We've seen it in football, in rugby, and other sports, where all different kinds of people, from different backgrounds, different shapes, different sizes, talk about being strong and power, and really like being proud of their bodies. And that's so relatable to so many children, but also so many women, because we all have different physiques, and our physique changes as we go through life as well. Having children and stuff, that sort of changes you, but doesn't mean that you can't fit in. And I always say to people, and say, oh, I don't like sport. I'm like, you just not found the right thing. because there's so many things. There's so many things out there. Look at paddle, like that's come from nowhere into this absolutely massive sort of phenomenon. And there's risks with it because it's becoming quite an upper class sport, I think. And it's in certain places, but equally, if there's a court, it's accessible, and you don't need too much. So I think from a female athlete perspective and from women's sport, it's changed dramatically over my career. And if I focus on football, I guess I came into this role just over 4 years ago. We had the first women's Euros. I was so lucky. I went to so many of the games, and then I was at Wembley to watch the Lionesses lift the trophy. I mean, it was unbelievable. I felt almost like an imposter because I'd only been there a few months. And then, fast forward, I was out in Basel for the final, which again was just, a dream really. And given the way that tournament had started and all of the talk around it, and then to see them lift that trophy again, I mean, there were tears, the drinks got thrown, like everyone was jumping around. It was absolutely insane. But, the exposure, I was underprepared at women in football. I think when I came in, for the amount of media attention that a home Euros got, and I was on so many shows talking about different players. I had to learn lots at the time. I wasn't really hugely knowledgeable around the women's game or the players necessarily. And it was really nice to kind of see that as we went into the next tournament, that's just natural now. People are knowing the players and asking about them, and they want comments on this. And, if we step back, there was the Women's World Cup, and, again, we got to the final of that. And sadly, the Lionesses didn't win that. But, there was a whole load of, talk and exposure around that, and some of the negativity with Lewis Rubiales and what happened in the sort of presentation. And I think every women's sport is kind of on the increase in terms of what's not matching that is the investment. And there's lots more commercial money coming into the game, but we are starting from a place which is, miles back from where men's sport is. If you take football, women weren't allowed to play for 50 years. And, whilst that's been addressed and acknowledged and what have you, women's sport is still very fragile financially. There's a lot of disparity between the people at the top and the rest. But there's a real unity in women's sport, learning from other women's sport and trying to make sure that everybody rises. And it's not just, the players like the Lionesses, they get everything. They'll get more commercial deals. The average salary is still not what it needs to be, but there's a minimum salary now in women's football, which is really important because our Lionesses that won that Euros, most of them have had to have God knows how many jobs whilst playing football. It's incredible to see the success that they've had, and we're leading the way really a lot in this country around women, certain women's sport, and that makes you really proud. But it also makes me anyway, feel incredibly passionate about both celebrating that, but absolutely being sort of positively dissatisfied with that. It's not okay. We're not where we need to be. So let's not all, wave our hands in the air and say it's fabulous, because there's a hell of a lot of work to do and to make sure that infrastructure is secure and that women are cared for in these elite sports roles. We know there's a lot of challenges. We know there's a huge amount of sexism and misogyny within society right now. But we also know from our Women in Football survey that 78% of women who work in the game, so not simply the players, just people working in the game, have experienced discrimination based upon their gender. There's a real issue with reporting sexism and misogyny because people fear the repercussions. Women fear the repercussions. They don't feel that the systems necessarily act for them. And so a lot of people don't speak up about these things, but we know the prevalence is really high, and that's heightened by what's going on in society right now. So, if I put my day job hat on, which is about women working in the game across men's and women's football, it can be a tough environment to operate in, and that's why organisations like ours are so important. And we support over 12,000 members, and it's free to join Women in Football, so there's no cost barrier to that. So for people who are working in the game or aspire to work in the game, then there is a amazing community that's kind of got your back and is there to support you and help with that career development. And we have to think about that from our athlete point of view. They're not going to be athletes forever. And what is that next stage of, career, and how do we help transition people into other roles, whether that's in sport or outside of it?
I think some of the bits that you're touching on there are interesting, but also not surprising to me. Firstly, women leaning into areas that haven't traditionally been their ground, and it's fantastic to hear that. But in doing so, having to juggle multiple things at the same time. And this is something I see and hear a lot. I've been reading Caroline Criado Perez's book, Invisible Women, where she talks about the unpaid nature of a lot of the work that women do with caring, transportation, the housework as well. And it feels to me like that's just something that women do really, really well. It's not always right. It is one of our strengths. One of the things I'd love to talk about on a bit of a more personal level with you is you are someone with 3 teenage children. So you had 3 children together in a very short time frame, which is huge. I have 1 daughter and 3 stepsons. Raising 1 daughter was challenging enough. Having 3 is tough. But you're someone that is a CEO of an organization. You're passionate about what you do, and you've obviously invested so much time in learning development and sporting activities and community activities as well. That is a huge amount of juggling in so many areas. Talk to me a little bit about that. That's what I see so much in Unstoppable Women, is that ability to juggle on multiple fronts. Tell me a bit about that and how you've managed that.
I mean, it's relentless and it's exhausting. So that would be my disclaimer. I haven't nailed this life balance at all. What I would say is it's shifted over the years, and I think definitely as the kids have grown. Thankfully my parents live in Spain now, but they lived here, and with Lee's mum as well. Like, they helped a bit with childcare, even drop-offs, to nursery or pickups or whatever on certain days. So that kind of support network that I had around me in terms of family, as well as I bought a house with my husband and we lived next to an outstanding Ofsted childminder who then became my childminder. We didn't know it at the time, but what a move that was. Thank God for Sarah. Yeah, she was a dream. And so that made life a little bit easier. But I think in the early days when I was trying to kind of, I guess if I think about me and trying to be healthy, and that's probably when I took up running, actually. And I say that, I used to jog or whatever. I wouldn't class myself as a runner, but it was something I could do at any point with just simply a pair of trainers, headphones in, and adios amigos, I'm goners for however long it is. And it would be half an hour probably, but but then that gets a bit addictive and you think, oh, I feel a bit better, and maybe I'll go a bit further, or maybe I'll go a bit faster, and then maybe I'll do a 5K, and maybe I'll try a 10K. And then crazily, not as bad as you, I did a half marathon once, and then it's like you start training and you think, oh well, I'd like to get under this time, and then you get there and you're like, oh, I want to get under this time, and then it's just ridiculous in my head. But that's just my head's like, gotta be better. I remember my previous CEO who once said to me, Yvonne, when are you going to stop on this ladder? Like, you don't have to go up all the time, you can just take a breath. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll take that on board. But that's just kind of, I guess, a little bit in my nature. So I think doing the running was helpful. Also, if I couldn't get out for whatever reason, I did get into a habit of doing exercise in my conservatory in the morning before the kids got up, because my husband always started work quite early. So if I could get done before and then get everyone off to school and nursery and then go to work, I would try and do that. But that's not a level of dedication and commitment I've been able to find again. I'm not a great morning person as I've got older, for sure. And then I think, as they're older, they require different things. Again, playing a team sport. I played netball until I was pregnant with Lewis, so my 3rd, and then I thought, right, I'm not going back, because I thought if I go back then I'll never get out. And I knew that there was going to be this influx of, I've now got 3 kids that are going to want to do, or I'm going to want them to do this activity or this activity, and so I'm going to be ferrying them around at certain points or whatever. So yeah, I didn't really do that. I guess now it's different. My eldest son's a great cook, so he's known as chef in our house, and
Brilliant.
I think I've done a cracking job for him in terms of, but he loves the kitchen, Liam. So yeah, I don't have to stress about, I've got to go and make tea, because my husband's great at lots of things. Cooking is not one of them. That's never, it's beans on toast if he's on chef duty. So yeah, I think now it's different. They need me emotionally in a different way, and it's about dropping in and out as I need to. But this feels like quite an intense life moment right now with the kids and sort of the support that they need. And so training wise, I just try and fit it in where I can. I'm trying to be healthy, and I know it's important for me, because if I don't do that, I start to feel really aggy, and they'll then notice it because I'm grumpy because I've not done this, and then I'll eat bad, and then I feel really sluggish and all of that type of thing. So I think that's important. I think the other thing is I've kind of gone through, and that whole juggling act is thinking about, what are my non-negotiables really, and I feel very fortunate. I've had some brilliant male colleagues and managers around me, and never feeling guilty for, in fact, being actively encouraged to make sure I'm at sports day, at the nativities and all of those things. I hear horror stories of women who are like, oh, I can't do that because my boss says, whereas my boss was always like, I'd say, oh, Richard, and obviously I had 3 kids, so I had 3 nativities, 3 sports days, like they were never on the same day. And I'm like, and he's like, absolutely, you must, like, you can't miss these things. They'll blink and, and so I've always took that into my leadership with people, that these things really matter. Life matters. Work is a part of life, and I think if you work hard, if you've got a great sort of work ethic, and you're not somebody that takes the mick, any business should be encouraging you to be part of those very precious moments that you'll never get back. So I feel lucky to have worked with people who made that very normal for me. And I appreciate that that's a privilege not everybody has, but so I just carried that and always tried to find that balance and had flexibility. Not all jobs have that flexibility, but I've always had a job where there is that flexibility that, if you're not there 9 till 5, it doesn't really matter if you're there 10 till 6 or whatever. So it's always a juggle. It's a constant. I don't get it right. I work too much. I am a little bit obsessed though, that I'm a perfectionist. I want to make sure that things are done and where they need to be. And I can be quite last minute on things because unfortunately it's just how I work. And I recognize that in me, and I'm trying to be better at not putting my pressure on other people, because not everyone can deal with that like I can.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question then? Because it feels so timely. I was talking to a female in a big named organization just before Christmas. She's got 2 very young children. She's very intelligent, very smart at what she does, but she's on the hamster wheel of promotions coming up. She should be going for it, being told not quite there yet, feeling like there's almost an element of maybe disappointment from seniors around her. But she's a mum, and she's confident in what she's doing, but she's not someone that shouts about it all the time, and struggling to know, is this the right place for me? Am I in the right space? And what is it that I want? Really want to be ambitious and career driven. Also want to be the family person, loving the young children, possibly want more. What would your advice be for someone that's kind of slightly stuck and feeling that tension in a big organization?
I mean, firstly, they've got to do what's right for them. I think the question is, what do I want? And then, am I in the right place? Like, they would be the 2 questions that I would look to answer. And then once you're clear on that, as women, I think trait-wise, we can be incredibly humble. If you are somebody who wants that promotion, you can't hope that somebody's going to spot that. Like, you've got to make it known, your intention. Like, make your intention known. I want to do that job. And in order to get there, I'm going to need to do this job or whatever that route is. I think you've got to be really clear on the impact that you're having. So as an individual, remind your manager the impact. So achieving X, Y, and Z. It might sound really basic, but turn things into impact rather than I've done X, Y. Like, you've got to really bring that to the fore for them, I think. Who else is talking about you when you're not in the room? Who are your allies that can be in the ears of these influencers saying, oh my gosh, such body did a great job? And actually, how are you telling them? How are you making people in your business look good because of the things that you're doing? Because if you do that, they are going to talk about you because you're helping them look really great. So I think it's okay not to be, all singing, all dancing in someone's face. I don't find that comfortable either, but it's equally not only acceptable, but necessary to be really clear on the difference that you are making and to remind people of those things, and to say, and also the other thing is, people might be a bit disappointed with you. Why? Somebody said to me, I'm disappointed. I don't think you quite. Thank you for your feedback, first of all, right? Feedback is a gift. And secondly, I would love to understand what you mean by that and what success looks like for you, for me, because I don't want to achieve that. I want to exceed it. So what does that look like? Because often people will say these things. They've got nothing to back it up with. If you can't give me feedback, don't make the comment. quite frankly, because that clarity is so important, because then the next thing you do is you just remind them of the things that you've achieved, which were the things that they said. No one can then say they're disappointed. And I would also say, do you want to recruit somebody who's the done deal, or do you want to recruit somebody for the potential? Because actually, when I came to this role, it was a recruitment agency that were doing search, and I was involved in obviously the process for a long time, and it came down to 2 people. And one of the things that I was told when I got the job was the other person, and I don't know who that was, had been a CEO or was a CEO of a national governing body, right? So they were already doing this national role. I'd done a CEO role very successfully, but in a city region, sort of county area, so not at that national level. It wasn't a media-facing role either. So this is very intensely kind of media-facing when it needs to be. And they said that person could have done the job very well. But the board think that you will take them further. It might take you longer, and you might even take them to places you don't even know we're going to go yet. That was the bit. So for me, there is a bit about you've got to recruit for potential here, because what's the art of the possible? If you've just got this done deal ready, whatever, that's fine, but it's a bit safe. And I would possibly plant some of those seeds in that business to go, actually. And I think as a mum who was very well supported when I returned from maternity leave, and bear in mind, I had 3 kids in 4.5 years. I was in, out, in, out, in, out, and deeply traumatized by that, actually, because I was so career driven. I was like, oh my God, this is going to really affect me in a negative way. Not having a family, but the gap of being out of work and who's going to surpass me, because, that's years out, effectively. I think I paid that back in spades. That flexibility, that respect, that warmth.
Yeah.
That company, got every single bit out of me, not because they paid me, but because I wanted to, because I loved it. And I think that's where employers sometimes don't get it.
They absolutely do. And I love some of those tips as well. I think they're so applicable to so many people. Yvonne, it's been really great hearing about your background and your leadership in your career. To end the interview, I'd love some quick fire questions. What does being an unstoppable woman mean to you? What is that phrase?
I think for me, it's having a confidence and feeling like maybe I don't have to prove myself anymore. There's enough in my background. There's enough things that I've done, proof points, that I just feel like I've always had this relentless ambition for whatever that is. I don't know. I'm quite flexible on where, but I will get there. I have like a genuine self-belief. So for me, it's about self-belief, and it's about ambition and confidence. And that's not arrogance. It's just something quietly that sits.
Yeah, I really love that. And your final question, left to you by Jess Harmon, who I last interviewed. Jess was a big lover of the Japanese art of kintsugi, this idea that when something breaks, like pottery, we embrace the imperfections and glue it back together with gold, highlighting some of those cracks, but showing something even more beautiful after the event. So Jess is someone that's really big on visual representation. And her question for you is, what image or visual item represents something really important about you?
Yeah, I love the question. It really made me think. And actually, I have pulled this from my stairway. And it's an image you can see there. And it's a bit of a mantra in our house. So I will, watch me. And I think this just summarizes everything about me. If people say I can't do it, it just spurs me on even more. There's something quite fun in proving people wrong, I think. And, not only for me, like all my friends would know this about me. My sister takes the mick out of me and my positivity, but I'm like, go on then, I'm not bothered. And actually, even with my kids, like, that those moments of self-doubt, and we all have them, me included, like imposter syndrome is a very real thing in everyone's life, I think. But yeah, for my kids, like, I have been known to take them to the top of hills and make them shout this stuff so loud, and they are so mortified with me, but they do it because there is something really affirming in saying that and then doing it, and then just kind of going, excellent. And it's not about I told you so to anyone. It's just about I can, I will, and watch me. Yeah.
I love that. And I think I can see that come through so clearly in what you have described. My final one would be then, you've got a question to leave for the next person. Is there something that you would really love to ask from them?
So I'd love the next guest to sort of reflect not just on, I guess, where they've been, but who they're still becoming. So my question is, what part of yourself are you still becoming, and how does this shape the way you lead?
I love that. Brilliant question. I'm so enjoying seeing the threads that are weaving through all these episodes. And you've touched on so many things that are so relatable to so many women as well. So I know this episode will speak to lots of different people checking in. That wraps up our third episode of the second series with Yvonne Harrison, CEO of Women in Football. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing so much. This will be available on Spotify, Prime, and Apple Podcasts as well. Yvonne, thank you.